Hi,
Hi,
Krystle.
how are you?
Good, thank you. Good afternoon. What are you doing today, this Saturday?
Good. I'm having a working day. I have a success hour every Saturday morning. A group of us meet online and we kind of have a power hour and then it kind of
Oh, wow.
catapults us into the working
Wow. Wow. Saturday. Wow.
day.
Saturdays for me are like wake up. Today's like I'm ready just for you. But usually it's like wake up really late, do whatever I
Really?
feel like. The world is my oyster.
That's my Sunday. My Sunday's my chill day. But Saturday I'm like, no one's gonna call me because no one's working, so I can just do my own stuff.
Wow. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm excited to be speaking to you today.
Yes, I'm excited too. Good topic to talk about.
Yes. So, shall we wait for, I guess, 2 more minutes just to see who's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
join?
Sure. Sorry, I was waiting. I was looking to see if you were online. I couldn't see, and I think my phone does that sometimes. It doesn't show me everybody who's online, so
Oh,
I
okay.
had to go to your page and yeah.
Yeah,
But
I,
we're here.
I went live and then I like stopped the live. Then I messaged you and then I came back on. um,
How are you
so
today?
well, hi guys. There's like three people on this. It's one of them is you, but I know people will be joining. Some of our girls are playing football, so on their way back, from football, they're gonna be joining us. That's what they told me.
Lovely.
But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely. Should be good.
yeah, I'm excited. So okay, let's just start. I I'll just start off saying what the Get In series is. Basically, it's something that, yes, Youth Engagement Solutions is doing in order to bring about really inspiring people from different industries to talk about their lives in a Q&A session. Basically, tell us how they got where they are, what were their struggles, challenges, how do young people get into this industry, things like that. Basically, our organization caters to specifically young people up to the age of 30 years old. We help them with health and wellness, employment, and basically football. We do football as well, and then education, training, empowerment, all of those things. So we basically are cater to most of the times cater to people in North and West London specifically, but honestly, we have customers from everywhere in London as well. And so we decided we wanted to start the Get In series because we wanted to give role models for our young people from within our own community in London, people who are doing incredible things, and who have got there. And, Krystle, I've been following you for a while. I think a bunch of people from our staff have actually recommended you initially. They've said that you've done some really great work, and just the fact that your organization, like Money Monday, focuses on financial education and empowering people into learning about, because honestly, personally, like when I hear the word finance, it's really overwhelming. It's really stressful to, I think everybody, I don't know about everybody,
A
but
lot of
I think
people.
everybody has that kind of reaction to thinking about how do we manage our money? Like, what do we do with, yeah, how to manage money, how to save money, what are stocks,
Starting.
investments, bonds? Like every time I hear these words, I just blank out because I don't
Yeah.
really know how to process
Crazy.
them. And it's stressful because I think money is important for all of us, and we want to know how to manage it the best we can. So we were really inspired by what you do and what your organization does, and that's why we've brought you on board. Would you
Thank
like to
you.
say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. So I'm a chartered accountant by profession. So I've been working in the space of numbers and finance since I left university. I studied maths at university, financial mathematics, and it's funny because I said I was never going to be an accountant because they were quite boring, but I am, and we're
Wow.
not boring, FYI. Um, so yeah, I was doing it for 10 years, and I kind of got into a position. I've been teaching maths privately since I was 18. So alongside me working, I was teaching privately. And I'm from North London, actually. So you saying you guys cover North and West. I'm from North, been here my whole life. And teaching, various demographics, maths meant I was going into so many different types of households, the really rich, wealthy people in Golders Green, Muswell Hill, and then different areas where the demographics are not the same. And I'm seeing this massive gap between the work that I'm doing, my 9 to 5, working with really wealthy people and making owners more wealthy, and just seeing this massive gap, and then people around me, my family that's struggling with finances. And I realized my purpose, basically, which is to help educate as many people as I can about personal finances. So I left, went traveling for a year and a half on my own, and came back and got brave and just dived into the world of personal finance. So set up Money Monday, the Instagram page, and I've also set up 2 separate businesses this year that have been in talks for like the last 3-4 years. But like I said, coming back from travels, I was like, let's go, do it. You're doing it for other people. So I had this quote, which is, I'm a vessel. So to use myself as a vessel and just educate others, it's not about me. Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Okay. So can you tell us I mean, you did touch upon like how you started your career, but where did the interest for math come from? Like, where did the motivation? Because personally, I'm a very creative person. Like the second I hear the word math, I'm out of the door. Like, that's it. As soon as I finished high school, I was like, there is no way anybody, even if they hold a gun to my head, am I going to go and do anything mathematics related? It's really difficult for me to do general calculations. So how did you really get into that career, or that career path?
It's funny hearing you talk like that. I've heard so many people talk like that, and it literally gives me this fire in my belly to want to work with you personally and make you happy and excited about maths. But
Okay.
that's a conversation. So with maths, so I think back to secondary school, I was an average student. I was doing good. I wasn't bad. I was like about above average maybe. And I think it was in year 9, I had this amazing teacher who just took a shine to me. I remember what she looked like. She was very frumpy and, older. When you're young, you see them as much older, and just really took a shine to me and gave me all the encouragement I needed. And all of a sudden, I'm the best math student in the whole year, and I'm just excelling. And I think when I did my GCSEs, you couldn't get an A star. I think the highest was an A, and I got an A. And I think, and it goes back, and I don't want to put too much pressure on it, but the teacher you have, or the role models and the influences you have make such a difference to you and what you put effort into. So because of that influence, I was like, okay, maths, I like maths. Yes, I'm good at maths. And again, back to you saying that you're a creative and the thought of maths makes you want to, walk out the door. I'm a creative too. So
yeah, somebody just commented that actually. They said, I'm an accountant, and whenever somebody says I don't like math, I'm a creative person, really frustrates me. These two aren't mutually exclusive. Okay, I believe you guys.
So my camera does this. It's very annoying. It kind of goes blurry and disappears. Hopefully it'll come back.
Yeah, I think just refocus. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, Mr. Manchester, like it's so true, and it's difficult because I understand the frustration, and I think I try not to be frustrated because I can see where it comes from, and usually it's to do with some kind of insecurity or embarrassment about maths, and it's easy for someone to say, oh, it's because I'm a creative, that's why I'm not good at it, so I'm going to choose this as an excuse. But I draw and paint, and that makes me a creative, right? But I'm also a lover of maths and number. So I pursued maths, did a degree, not knowing what I want to do in my career, and then just fell into accountancy as the easy option. And I'm really annoyed about this blurring
though. Maybe if you could tap on the screen, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, I am. It's a new phone. I would think that it would be quite good.
Or I guess change of location. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just.
There we go. Okay, so I'm going to sit very stiff. Yeah, so I just fell into accountancy off the back of doing a maths degree. So I didn't actually have a dream to be an accountant. I was the complete opposite. I didn't want to be an accountant. But given my creative side, I went into creative companies. So I worked in PR agencies, advertising companies, IT companies, which is ridiculously fun. Like, we literally would dress up like it was a fashion show to come to work and sit in the finance department. And being in that kind of company, you're included in the PR advertising fun life, drinking however often, the company paying for your drinks, paying for your cab home. You had that lifestyle. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Wow. Okay. So you said you had a role model sort of person who like got you interested in math, and then just your career. Do you have any suggestions for young people who probably are like me, hate math still? What do they do? How do they get themselves into like truly learning about like how to enjoy math, for example?
And it's difficult because I think luckily now, because of social and how many people are much more accessible, like someone like myself, I'm totally open to somebody reaching out and saying, hey, can you help me with this problem, or can you explain this, or whatever. And I think it's about finding people in that space who are willing to help. It could be a mentor, it could be a member of your family, it could be a friend, but I think the starting point is having that conversation and being open about it and not being embarrassed. Often, you know, we're kind of paralyzed by our own restrictions and we think, I'm silly, I'm, you know, all these negative things, and you just sit there hiding it. Where actually, once you start talking about it, you realize so many people have experienced or experiencing the same thing, and then you may be able to be directed into the right, you know, to the right place.
Okay. Okay, that's good. So can you tell me a little bit about the challenges or the struggles you've experienced in this career? It is also sort of a male-dominated industry, like stereotypically that's what we think about finance as. So was it a struggle to really make a mark for yourself? You know, like, I don't know, break the glass ceiling. I don't know.
Yeah, no, totally. So working in the space of advertising, marketing, etc., it's a very white area. And often in these kind of organizations, you tend to hire people that look like you and are like you. So in my companies that I've worked for, I'm usually the only Black person. And I think a lot of fellow Black people who've worked in finance have a similar story.
Mm-hmm.
Or BAME, I could even say I'm the only BAME person.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people like that term, but we know what we're talking about. So there was the barrier of being comfortable or getting comfortable in that environment. And part of that required me to learn about myself and know who I was and gain confidence with that. Like, I'm amazing. And realize that, instead of thinking because I'm not like the majority, I'm not good enough. So it's going through that balance and then getting the confidence to actually, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for the top. I'm gonna go and get qualified as much as I can. I'm gonna climb the ladder. And I think doing that, again, going back to my previous point, doing that in isolation is hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would definitely say people need to join groups, memberships, associations, or I use Meetup a lot, because you literally put in what you're interested in, you find other people just like you, and you then have a little community. And that really helps with problems that you might have at work. You know, I remember going to finance events and everybody's an old white guy. And I'm like, okay, no one's like me. And they often would look at me like, why are you here? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what's your
Mm-hmm.
purpose? Are you here to do the tea or whatever? And, you know, I'm mid-30s now, and this is 10 years ago, and I looked much younger, but I'm, you know, a manager in my work, but
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't believe that. So a lot of it was about that, and that's the difficulties I faced. But I had the knowledge, so learning and understanding and doing the work was fine, because I
Okay.
stayed on top of that.
Okay. Okay. So it's Black History Month. We just addressed it. What does that mean to you? What does Black History Month mean to you?
It's a hard one, because I think we should be celebrating Black history all the time. I mean,
Sure.
I think it's a good initiative, especially for those people who don't celebrate it or are not familiar with Black history and know what it's about. It's a great initiative to get the awareness out there. And I think that's definitely true for myself. I didn't come from a home where we were strongly talking about Black history and all that stuff. It wasn't in my peripheral growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I have a friend who I met many years ago who kind of got me on to educate me about Black history, which is amazing. So yeah, it's a great initiative. And I think, yeah, you know, organizations getting involved in it is great. Just putting that information out there and realizing, oh, this amazing Black person did this and this person did that. And it's things that are really close, you know, like the light bulb and things that are, you know, we deal with every day.
Yeah. Definitely. I think even for me personally, I had to go to university to really learn about, like, I guess not just Black history, but like histories and cultures of like just like around the world. And I think in terms of like what we're trying to do at Yes, we're just trying to give people the resources so they can educate themselves and learn for themselves, and I guess hopefully build a more inclusive community. Like as you were saying, like community, that is really an intrinsic part of our organization as well. We're really trying to build communities for these young people, so that they feel like they have the support and the resources necessary and they're not alone ever. Okay, do you have any present or historical role models in
Yeah,
terms of,
it's
yeah?
funny. Yeah, I was just talking to a friend yesterday who's writing a book, and I can't wait for it to come out. And he is a role model. I don't think he knows that actually, that he's my role model. But he's writing a book, and I was saying to him, it's I don't read many fictional books, but I'm excited about his one. Nelson Mandela, I read not too long ago, which was amazing. Um, Current day, Michelle Obama, of course. She's an amazing, powerful
Sure.
Black woman. I don't know if you know of Tracy Ellis Ross.
No, haven't heard of
Yeah,
her.
she's an actress, a feminist. She's very political, and she just is very confident, and it's just great to watch her and her journey, what she stands for, and it empowers you as a woman, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to follow a
Oh,
similar
okay.
journey. So a
Wow.
lot of them are about empowerment and standing tall and strong, you know, in who you
Yeah.
are.
Personally, like for me, like Black history is about reading Toni Morrison, like as much
Yeah,
of Toni Morrison as I can. I
yeah,
think she's just the most incredible like fiction writer. She really makes
yeah.
you feel what somebody who like I'm a brown person. She really makes me feel like, okay, I can still read about this and relate and understand and have empathy, and yeah. So I really enjoy reading Toni
Yeah.
Morrison. Okay, so let's get back into
Mhm.
talking about finance.
Yeah.
Our organization caters to young people, so we just wanted to basically figure out like how do young people join the finance career. How do they, and I know you touched upon it a bit, but like education wise, even outside of education, people who don't have that many resources, like what do they do to really learn about finance if they want to like if they want to be you, for example, like what do they do, what are the steps they take to get there?
I think the first point, and I think I wish I had been told this myself, you are fully responsible for your education. So if you have this thought that you want to be in a certain place, as opposed to, you know, sitting there and applying for jobs and not getting them, hypothetically speaking, you can actually go and read something. You can go and watch a YouTube video. You can listen to people speak about things. You can go to events. A lot of them are free. And just be in the environment of where you're trying to aspire to be and put
Mm-hmm.
yourself there now. There's no reason why you can't. There's no reason why you can't go to those spaces. So I think the first step is taking responsibility for your education and doing what you can right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, joining groups, organizations, reaching out to recruiters, and there's nothing wrong with doing it early. In terms of me and my career, so I'm a chartered accountant. There's various qualifications you can have, you know, CMA, ACCA, etc. I started working as an assistant in a company, and I think I moved to my second company and got them to pay for my studies.
Okay.
So not as a loan or anything, they completely paid for it. And I think in my career, I would definitely push for that. I've had some friends who've asked me, you know, what should I do? How should I get into it? And they've gone and paid for it themselves. And you really don't have to. These organizations have money to pay and train up someone like you. You know, there's a little bit of a commitment that you've got to make. But even with that, there's flexibility around it. So if you can, you know, try to secure a role that offers study funding, and then you're learning and you're working at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's great, and making money.
Yeah, and I think it benefits the organization as well because they already have somebody who they trust and
Yeah.
who's part of their company who's going to bring in all of these new skills. And I think especially now, like with the digital revolution, there's honestly like so many free applicable resources online.
Yeah.
Personally, like I mean, I personally use like online courses that have been done by like top-notch universities that are free. I mean, if you want a certificate, then obviously you have to pay for it, but just for gaining the skills and the knowledge, I think it's a good way to like really, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Like invest in yourself and educate yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get a little bit more into like managing finances. This is what I'm here for. I want to learn this.
Let's
So how
go.
did young people start thinking about, because you think like I this is the mentality I had like right before the pandemic.
Mhm.
Which was, I'm gonna struggle now. It's okay. I'm gonna live paycheck to paycheck, and maybe a few years down the line is when I'll start to think of saving. That's when I'll start to think of like, how do I invest? What do I do? Blah blah blah. I've just gotten out of university. Um, doing my master's now, like there's no time to sit and save money right now. There's no ability as such to save. And you think like I'm obviously not making as much money as everybody else who's like much more experienced is, so how am I supposed to save that much money as they are? So whatever, I'm just gonna live paycheck to paycheck. This was my mentality until the pandemic happened, and a lot of us start to lose their part-time jobs, full-time jobs, whatever, and you really start to think about like, oh my god, I don't have any emergency finances to help me get through this time. And it's a very stressful moment in time right now, especially financially as well, also health wise 100%, but financially as well, it's a huge struggle for a lot of us. And so that's when I really start to think, and I really start to realize like my age, or the fact that I'm young, or the fact that the fact that I don't have all of this ability does not mean I should not have even tried. I should have tried. And so is there an age for when you need to start thinking like, where do we begin? I don't understand. I don't know if any of this made sense. I feel like I was just ranting about myself. But
right away, it's fine. I think I got what you're saying. Yes, I'm here. So the question at the end was, when does someone start saving, or when does someone start thinking about money? And personally, when they're 5 years old. Why not? Start way back. Ideally, your parents should, or people around you should be exposing you to finance and the world of finance, and what money is, and the fact that money is a tool and that you can use it to make more money. But looking at where you are right now, you can start managing your money. So the first point I always tell people to do is have a budget and understand, and it's an ugly word, no one likes it, but what you want to do is at least understand how much money you get in every month and how much you spend. And I did this for the first time when I was early 20s, I think 21 or 22. I did my first budget. And this is before I was someone that was talking about finances, because my finances weren't amazing. I didn't, and I couldn't find where £500 went in a month. I had no idea where this money went, because I was spending it on such random things, lots of random small things. I'm like, well, how? And that just, I use that example to bring home, you need to understand what you spend your money on. You need to understand your habits. So when you take the first task of going through your bank account or your credit card, whatever you use, and just looking at all those little expenditures, whether it's McDonald's, whether it's, ASOS, or whatever it is, a little handbag or whatever it is, just understand what you do and why you do it, because then that feeds a lot into what you can do going forward. So once you have that plan in place, then it's okay, well, what do you want to do? What are you trying to achieve? And if, like you just said, you want to build an emergency fund because you don't have anything right now, you don't have to start with saving £200 a month, £300 a month, you can start with £10, £20 a week, a month, whatever that may be. The point is to get into the habit of saving. And once you've started saving, it just snowballs. It gets bigger and bigger. You then have more and more money in your pot. And as again, back to not having money during these times, it's about being creative, which you are, and finding other ways you can make money. And like you said, digital revolution, everything's online right now. There are things you do. You can sell digital assets. You can go on Fiverr, and if you're educated, like you said you are, there are skills that people want, and you can make a few buck here and there, and all that adds up. All that adds up to your emergency fund or extra money that you might need to get by.
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, like making a budget, what do you do? Do you suggest like beginning of the month you sit and decide like, this is how much money I need to be spending from my previous spending habits, and then do you recognize like, I don't need a million clothes every month, so maybe I should stop buying them? This is what my thing is. Like, I love clothes. But what do you do? Like, how do you do it? Yeah, how do you change your habits? How do you really? Yeah.
Good question. Very tangible. Okay, so like I said, the starting point is to sit down, go through your bank statements, and understand what you do. So record in a budget, whether it's an app or an Excel spreadsheet or pen and paper, whatever you like. Write down your income. So whether you have one job or maybe you have two, fine. Write down how much you get each month. Then list all the different type of things that you spend on. Just list them all down and add them all up and see, where are you spending a lot of money? Where are you spending too much? And understand what your habits are like. And then have a review. Is that necessary? Look at your bottom line. So when you subtract your expenses from your income, what's the difference? If it's negative, we definitely need to make some changes. Or if it's really small, what's left over, again, we can make some changes and cut back those expenses. So like you said, maybe you spend too much at ASOS or River Island or wherever. Do you need to? And that do you need to links with what you're trying to achieve. Now, if you want to save up and maybe have £1,000 in your bank account by the end of the year or by next year or whatever your target is, okay, go back to your monthly budget and see where you can cut back on that expense to then put that money into your saving instead. There's another thing that everyone should do as well. It's kind of like the second stage of budgeting. So the first is a budget, which is just for 1 month, and you do that. The next is a financial plan. So like you know, I'm guessing what you're doing for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
You say you're still studying or you finished studying?
No, I'm almost done studying, so probably like doing more with yeah.
So ideally you'll be able to plan for a month or a couple of months depending on your circumstances, and it's literally putting that budget into that forecast over several months. Now, so hypothetically, say your income is exactly the same every month, your expenses you can start with being exactly the same every month. Now say you know that, okay, we've got December, Christmas coming up, you know that you might spend a bit more in December, so you want to tweak that to be truthfully reflective of what you're going to spend in that month. But then what you might want to do is in another area, maybe don't spend as much. And it's about having that control and that management over your money. That's the main thing. And you do the same thing for the whole year. So again, when it's your dad's birthday, your mum's birthday, your brothers and sisters, think about those things. And it's about, the main thing is to be responsible and in control. You don't want to get to the month and be like, oh my gosh, I've got to buy this gift and I don't have enough money because I bought that last week. And then you get into trouble and then you might have to borrow. And it's that kind of action you want to take to manage your finances as a starting point.
Okay, actually that's perfect, because usually what ends up happening is when the birthday month comes or when something happens is when you're like, oh, okay, I have this month, and in the beginning of the month you're like, I'm gonna save this much money, it's all gonna be good, and then it doesn't end up happening, and it's disappointing. It's really like I start by the end of the month I'm like, who are you? Why do you always do this to yourself? And it's hard because the beginning of the month you're like, oh, I'm rich again, and then by the end you're literally like eating like, I don't know, cup noodles every day, and it's hard. So yeah. So okay, what do you think, like, I don't know if this is something within the finance industry, but this is something people in the office were asking when I said I want to interview you, and they were asking, is there like a responsible way of making the most out of a salary that a young person would make, and like, is there a certain percentage that they should be trying to save or invest? What are investments? What? Yeah.
It's like 60 questions there. Okay.
I know.
So,
sorry.
Fine. The first response I want to make is the percentage question. So I'm quite passionate about this in that I don't think it works. Like, no. So we hear people talk about divvying up your income into percentages, you know, what essentials, personal, etc., etc. I don't agree, because everybody has different circumstances. Number one, everybody earns a different amount of money. People live in different places. People, as in different parts of the UK, for example. People maybe rent. Maybe they live with parents, they don't actually spend on rent. Or maybe they do. Or maybe they're, you know, there's so many different variables. Are you still there? Yeah, there's so many different variables, which to me means you cannot allocate your income on a percentage basis. I think what you need to do, going back to the budget idea, is understand your income, understand your spending habits, and having a review of that, and then thinking, okay, so I have my essentials, which I cannot change, you know, your rent, your electricity, whatever those things are, your travel. You could get creative with your travel, of course, cycle or walk, but you know, we have essentials. Then we have personal goods, and again, you can be flexible with that. You could maybe not buy, you know, the designer item, you could buy, you know, the store brand or whatever, and use that flexibility to create your own percentage, so to speak. But start with the basics, fundamentals that you have to pay for, of course, because you need to, don't know if you know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to satisfy those things first. Then it's a matter of, okay, those flexible parts that we can, you know, change and amend, and then focus on saving, focus on investing. And I think that's the approach that you should be making. And then going back to the whole, you know, your income and how best to, I can't remember your wording, but how to take advantage, I'm going to say how to take advantage of your income to kind of support your financial needs. You know, there's auto enrollment pension at the moment, and your employer has to put in a percentage to your pension if you are paying into your pension as well. I think everybody needs to take advantage of that. It's effectively free money. So you pay into your pension, and the government gives you a percentage on top, and your employer pays into your pension as well. It's a no-brainer. It's saving for the long term. Without the education, a lot of people, like myself, would opt out. I did at a point, and opt out of the auto enrollment, which is not, it's not ideal. It doesn't make sense. It's free money. Take it. So I think the first point is that. Then, depending on your personal circumstances, of course, you want to build an emergency fund, have some savings. And then, yes, look at investing, of course. Again, it's like pensions, you're investing for the long term and you're putting money aside. We're not talking about trading. Trading is risky. Trading has a low chance of success. This involves you being really knowledgeable about the stocks and shares. That's something completely different. But we're talking about investing for the long term. Yeah, and I think that's the order that people should take.
Okay. Shall we talk about investments?
We
Now
can.
that we've come to it.
We can loosely. I'm not an expert on investments.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, basically, as a young person, it is a very how would I say, like, overwhelming word to hear when you hear people saying they're investing in something. Either it's, as you said, trading, or it is like in goods, or like land, property, etc., etc. And it's do you recommend that for somebody who's young, who's just starting out? How do you recommend we go about this I don't know, threshold?
Yeah. So my first answer will be yes. So pensions, to start with, is an investment. With pensions, you're investing in stocks and shares. You're investing in companies in hopes that your fund will grow, and then you can use that money later on in life at retirement. So that is investing. As much as you're not managing yourself, you're not choosing the company to invest in, you're not making those active decisions, it's still investing. So once you do that, you are an investor. It's done. Dust your hands. The other type of investing is not through your employer, not through your pension. That might be via an ISA wrapper, or, like I said, trading, and that may be a bit more managed by you, etc. And again, going back to what we said before about taking responsibility for education, there are so many people out there talking about investing for free, you know, on YouTube. And again, I say that with caution, because there are some people talking about it and they shouldn't be. They're not skilled enough to talk about it. So a bit of due diligence to make sure you're talking to reputable people and getting the right knowledge. And ideally, you want to learn about this stuff for a long time before you start investing yourself. Don't dive in. When you ask the question about should a young person invest, I think as long as your needs are met, you have a savings pot, your debts are either clear or really low or totally in control, don't start investing yet. Get those basic things sorted first. Know what you're doing with your life, know what you're doing with your finances, and be really comfortable and responsible. And that might take a bit of time. So I do financial coaching, and sometimes it's more than just one conversation for you to be in a good financial position. It might mean, you know, unlearning some bad habits, understanding why you do certain things, undoing them, changing those habits, now being really comfortable and solid in your new habits, then having your finances sorted, then start investing.
Okay.
And there's no harm in that. I think that's the best way to do it responsibly.
Okay. You mentioned some YouTube channels. Are there any books, YouTubers, anybody you'd recommend for somebody to like start learning? Yeah,
2 amazing people I would definitely recommend. One is called The Conversation of Money. Okay. His name's Peter. He is great. Write it down. Seriously, he's great.
I am.
And Jack Financial. So Jack Financial, again, breaks everything down ever so simply. It's ridiculous how basic he makes it. He does one-on-one lessons, yeah, let's call them lessons as well, where he'll just take you through, I don't know how long they last, whether they're an hour or so, and just break everything down. And yeah, check out his channel. Definitely useful. I've had such great reviews from him as well.
Okay, there's somebody who recommended Broke Millennial. Stop scraping Broke Millennial. Oh my God. I'm feeling attacked. Stop Scraping By, and the other one is Get Your Financial Life Together by Erin Lowry.
A good repeat the book again. The book again?
I think they mean the YouTube channel. So
yeah, Benjamin, I mentioned The Conversation of Money. His color theme is nice and yellow.
Just write it down for people to take a screenshot if they wanted to.
Yeah, and Jack's Financial, JAX Financial.
JAX Financial. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Debt and loans. I think young people also get into the really bad habit of like borrowing from their friends, family, whoever else, and then what do you do? How do you get started with paying that off? Or do you start saving and then pay? Like, what, how is the process? Like, should I save my money first and then start paying off my debts, or should I do it as a process?
Joint. It depends on what kind of debt you have. Now, if you've borrowed from friends and family, ideally you could kind of get into an arrangement with them where you can pay off, you know, in a long term or delay that payment. Again, it depends, and you obviously want to have a good relationship, so manage that, you know, well. And that's us talking about debt with no interest, I assume. You know, friends and family could charge you interest, but I'm assuming no interest.
Yeah.
When it comes to debt with interest, so depending on, again, the type of debt you have, whether it's a payday loan, which is a ridiculously high interest, or a credit card or a bank loan, overdraft, etc., I think look at what those costs are. And if they're quite high compared to what you're going to get when you save, it's likely that it's beneficial for you to pay off your debts. If you haven't got an emergency fund, I would suggest doing both. Putting some money towards building that emergency fund pot. Like I said earlier, if that's only £20, £10 or so, it doesn't matter. It's something, and you're going to keep doing that, you know, and continue that process, and your pot will grow. When it comes to debt and loans as well, I talk about this often. I know that a lot of people, especially when they're in debt, the thought of taking out a credit card is a bit uncomfortable, but you have 0% interest credit cards where you can transfer your current outstanding debt or loan onto those credit cards, and there's no interest on that new credit card. So if your current debts have interest, you can transfer that balance onto a credit card with no interest, and they usually allow you to pay off that debt over 2, 3, 5 years, depending on the one you're accepted for.
Wow, that's actually really good advice.
Which is basically like pausing your debt, and you can manage and pay that off. And I mean, to do that, you want to do something called an eligibility checker first, to make sure, and that checks against you and your credit profile as to whether you'll be eligible for a credit card. And it gives you a percentage against different types of credit cards. Obviously, when it comes to applying, you want to apply for the one with the highest percentage likelihood of being accepted. And these are 0% balance transfer credit cards or money transfer credit cards. I think I've got a post on it on Instagram. Maybe I'll share it with you afterwards. Just kind of talking about how it works. But it's just really useful, because if you have got a debt that's outstanding, and, you know, touching back on the money, 0% money transfer, that's a credit card that you will be issued, and you can take that money out and put it into your bank to clear a debt. So say you have an overdraft, so then your overdraft is clear, and then you have 0% balance on that credit card to clear. So there's a couple of good little tricks you can do.
Oh, that's especially if you're paying a lot of interest. Credit scores, like you were saying, eligibility check. What is a credit score? This is something, because I lived in the Middle East all my life, I'd never really had to think about a credit score, and this is something really new for me, even as I moved to the UK a year ago. What is a credit score? Are we supposed to develop a good credit score or a bad one? Not a bad one. I mean, I don't know why. No, yeah. I don't know why I said that. But I remember I was going just to even buy a phone, and they were like, give us your bank details, because it was on EMI, and they were like, we need to check your credit score and things like that. And it's just, for everything you do here, you need that. So what is it? How do we develop a good one?
So a credit score is something that's recorded by a credit reference agency. Now, every one of us have a credit profile, or various credit profiles. Technically, we have 4. So there are 4 different credit reference agencies that collate information on you about your credit history. So you build credit history, for example, if you, like you said, take out a mobile phone, and it's a contract, you're in an agreement to pay your bill every month. Now, that information is reported back to these credit reference agencies every month, whether you've paid on time, whether you've paid at all, etc., etc., the amount outstanding on that debt. And those 4 credit reference agencies have that information. Now, there are 4. We're not going to go into why there's 4, but there's 4, and each of them kind of record the information ever so slightly different. And that's fine. There's nothing to worry about. There are a couple of main ones that lenders, so this is the other side of it, lenders use the information on those 4 credit reference agencies. They may have 2 that they use, they may have 1 that they use, to help them as the lender, so going back to the mobile phone provider, to decide whether they want to lend to you. So go to this credit reference agency and say, okay, we're looking at your account on their books, basically. What's your history like? Have you been paying your bills on time? Do you pay at all? How much debt do you have at the moment? All that information is nice and neatly packaged there. And literally, when you look at your credit report, you see a long list of kind of repayment activity for every single month of the year. It's like a little
Where do
polka
you
dot.
get this credit report?
You can get them online.
Okay.
There's, if I remember them all, there's Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and there's one more. But yeah, you can literally get them. You have access to that information for free. You can pay to get the full report. A lot of them offer the report for free for 30 days, but then you still have access to your profile. And it's good to stay on top of it, make sure the information is correct, make sure you're on the electoral roll. And again, there's a bunch of this information which I can share with you. But yes, it's definitely very important, especially for later in life when you want to make some financial decisions and, you know, take out credit, buy property, or even rent somewhere to live. They, you know, will check your credit report and make sure that you're credible.
And these organizations have our information from like our banks, basically.
Yep, exactly. From your banks, from anyone that you've borrowed money from. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I'm done with all my interrogating questions. Does anybody here on the live want to ask any questions, or do you have anything to add?
No, I think we touched on quite a lot. I think the main thing is not being afraid to, you know, ask questions if you don't know something. You know, no one's going to laugh at you, and if they do, I'm not going to swear, but we know what to say.
Yeah.
People should be brave to ask questions.
Yeah.
Your focus is to improve your knowledge and get further in life. So reach out to people, make connections, and build a community.
And follow Money Monday on Instagram, because honestly, ever since I started following you, I sent it to a bunch of my friends as well. I was like, follow her. Like, honestly, I'm learning. I'm actually learning. So yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, does anybody have any questions? I think
if they don't, feel free to send them to me directly later. I'll happily help you out.
Yeah, and either way, we're gonna. Oh, thank you so much. You're welcome. Either way, we're gonna post this this live and the whole video and a bunch of clips of it online, so you can access this again if you have any questions, any doubts about what we spoke about today.
Definitely.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to ask anything. Thank you so much for your time, Krystle.
That's okay. Have a good day.
Saturday.
Yes, I will.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.